She didn't see me. I watched her through the tinted glass of my parked car, headlights off, engine humming just enough to keep me warm. It was 11:52 p.m. I wasn't supposed to be there until 12:45, but I messed up. Or maybe, somehow I didn't. I saw her step out the back door of the house, barefoot, drink in one hand, phone in the other, laughing like she'd forgotten I existed. Her black dress clung to her like it had been chosen for someone else's eyes, not mine. The man behind her, taller, broader, someone I didn't recognize, touched the small of her back as if he had every right to. And she let him. My mouth went dry. I thought maybe I was seeing wrong. Maybe that wasn't her. But then she turned just enough for the porch light to catch her face. My wife, Mallory, smiling up at another man like I'd never made her smile in years. 10 minutes earlier, I had been at home scrolling through lawnmower reviews. Now I was parked on the curb, watching the kind of betrayal that doesn't shout. It whispers. It drips. It eats your spine from the inside. She'd texted me casually an hour before. Babe, can you come pick me up at 12:45? Party's winding down. I said sure. No questions asked. I trusted her. Like an idiot. The house wasn't what I expected. Not Natalie's usual place. Bigger. Flashier. Loud bass pulsing through manicured hedges. I was about to turn around and wait at the corner when I saw someone stumble out laughing. A man in a blazer, holding 2 glasses of wine. He kissed a girl I'd never seen before like it was a high school reunion and they'd never broken up. That's when I realized this wasn't a girl's night. I shouldn't have gone closer, but I did. Curiosity, fear, that ugly knot in my gut. It pulled me like a rope. From behind a tree, I had a full view of the backyard. Pool lights glowing blue. Champagne bottles floating in melted ice. 5 couples at least, and 2 more people dancing slow under a patio heater. And in the center of it all, my wife, swaying in the arms of someone who was absolutely not me. She was drunk, maybe, but not that drunk. Her body language was too familiar, too relaxed. She touched his chest when she laughed. She adjusted his collar. She leaned her head on his shoulder for a moment that lasted too long. I felt like a ghost. Not angry. Not yet. Just erased. At 12:43, I saw her check her phone, whisper something to him, and go back inside. She came out the front door 2 minutes later, alone, coat in hand, all smiles. I drove up. She opened the door, slid in like everything was fine, and said, "Thanks for being early. You're the best." I didn't correct her. I didn't say I'd been watching the entire time. But I would. Eventually. And when I did, it would ruin more than just the night. She sat in the passenger seat humming some song that was still echoing in her head from the party, her bare feet curled up like she was 15 and innocent. She didn't smell like her perfume. She smelled like cheap cologne and pool chlorine, and I pretended not to notice. That's what I do, apparently. Pretend. Not. Swallow things I'm not supposed to taste. Fun night? I asked, keeping my voice light, like I wasn't gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. She glanced at me with a lazy grin. Yeah, just drinks, dumb stories. Natalie's playlist is still stuck in my brain. Sorry I dragged you out this late. Drag me out? She made it sound like I hadn't watched her being cradled in another man's arms under twinkle lights while pretending to still be married to me. I wanted to scream, but I just smiled. No problem, I said, because apparently I'm fluent in self-betrayal. I drove us home. She scrolled through her phone, fingers flying like she was desperate to erase something. Her screen tilted just enough for me to catch a glimpse, a photo. Her, in the pool. With him, his hand low on her waist. Her eyes closed. I looked away before she noticed I saw. At home, she kissed me on the cheek like I was her driver and disappeared into the bathroom. The lock clicked. I just stood there in the living room, coat still on, staring at the front door like maybe if I walked back out, this whole night would rewind and none of it would be real. I didn't sleep. I lay there with the TV on mute, pretending to be okay while her laughter from earlier kept looping in my head. Not the kind of laugh she gave me lately. This one had oxygen in it. Freedom. Like she was lighter without me. The next morning, she was all coffee and scrambled eggs like nothing happened. She made a joke about how loud Natalie's music had been, how the neighbors probably hated them. She wore one of my old shirts like some kind of twisted souvenir. And then her phone buzzed. A name I didn't know. Liam. No last name. Just a heart emoji next to it. She grabbed it fast, like reflex. Said something about it being Natalie's brother, a group chat thing. But I'd never heard of Natalie having a brother. I didn't ask. I just nodded. Because I was already planning. I couldn't unsee what I saw. I couldn't unknow what I knew. But I could confirm it. And once I had proof, I wouldn't just ask questions. I'd take everything she didn't realize she was about to lose. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was that I had already set up the second phone. The one she didn't know I owned. The one that would finally tell me the truth. And it was already in her purse. It's strange how easy it is to sit across from someone who's lying to your face when you already know the truth. Mallory was in the kitchen chopping apples for a salad like it was any other Tuesday. She asked if I wanted to go to the grocery store with her later. I said sure. I even kissed her on the forehead. She smiled. What she didn't know was that I'd spent the last 2 hours in my car, parked 2 blocks from that same house from the night before. I waited until her contact, Liam Redhart, posted an Instagram story, and I watched him tag the party location by mistake. Same backyard. Same twinkle lights. Same inflatable flamingo still floating in the pool. I wasn't stalking. I was confirming. That man was real. He wasn't Natalie's brother. And I had proof now, not just what I saw through the fence. Geotagged photos. Her in the background. Her hand holding a red cup. Him, shirtless, grinning. But the real confirmation came from the second phone, a burner I'd bought months ago and never thought I'd need. Last night, while she was in the shower, I slipped it into her purse. It was synced to a Bluetooth mic I'd stuck inside the lining. Paranoia? Maybe. But now it was my only weapon. I had nothing else. I'd given her my full trust. All she gave me was a performance. That night, she said she was going to Natalie's again. Just to help clean up the mess, she claimed. Natalie's too hungover to do it herself. I nodded. I said, take your time. I waited 15 minutes after she left, then opened the second phone and connected to the mic. I expected silence or maybe the muffled sound of music. But instead, I heard her laugh. And his voice. Did he suspect anything? She answered, Emery? Please. He thinks I'm still scared of upsetting him. That one hit like a shovel to the chest. She wasn't scared. She wasn't sorry. She was playing me. I didn't turn off the audio. I kept listening. I kept hearing every moment she gave to someone else. Every word was a nail in the coffin I didn't realize I'd been building. Then something else happened. Something I wasn't ready for. Liam said, Are you still planning to tell him? Or are we just going to keep this going? She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, Not yet. I need to sort out the finances first. Finances? What finances? Suddenly, this wasn't just about cheating. This wasn't about lust or boredom or alcohol. It was about money. My money. Our accounts. The retirement savings I'd built. The equity in our home. It all flashed through my mind like a warning alarm. She wasn't just betraying me emotionally. She was positioning herself, plotting something bigger. And I was done playing dumb. But I couldn't just confront her. Not yet. Not if I wanted to stop whatever she was setting up behind my back. No. I had to stay quiet a little longer. Let her think she still had the upper hand. Because if she wanted to play games, I'd make sure I was the last move on the board. The hardest part wasn't hearing her lie. It wasn't even the way she spoke about me like I was some gullible idiot she had to tiptoe around. No, the hardest part was pretending I didn't know any of it. Waking up beside her the next morning while she texted him under the covers, her face lit by that soft glow, smiling like a teenager with a crush. I wasn't sleeping much. My appetite vanished. Every sound from her phone felt like a gut punch. Every excuse she made felt carefully rehearsed. Natalie's going through a rough patch, she'd say. I'm just being there for her. It was rehearsed, all right. But not for Natalie. It was for me. To keep me calm while she dug deeper behind my back. She didn't know I'd already pulled our latest joint bank statement. Didn't know I'd flagged 2 Venmo transfers to a name I didn't recognize, $600 each, labeled as car repairs and weekend rental. She doesn't drive, and we didn't rent anything. But Liam sure as hell does. Still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I was building something. A timeline. Evidence. Dates, times, screenshots, voice recordings, bank activity. I didn't want to catch her in a lie. I wanted to trap the lie. Box it in so tightly there was no oxygen left to breathe. That week, she got more comfortable. Older. I could feel it in the way she kissed me goodbye without making eye contact. The way she spent more time helping Natalie plan her move than she did at home. What she didn't know was that Natalie wasn't even in town anymore. I'd spoken to her. She moved out of state 2 months ago. Mallory never expected me to check. She really thought I'd just sit in silence while she restructured her entire double life. But the real twist came on Thursday night. She left the house in a rush, saying she was late to help with furniture stuff. I waited 30 minutes, then opened the mic static, then voices. Laughter. I braced myself for more flirtation, more sickening whispers, but what I heard made my blood run cold. Liam said, "So you talked to the lawyer?" She answered, "Yeah. He said once I file, I could claim spousal support, especially if I prove Emery's emotionally unavailable. Maybe even manipulate some texts if I need to." Liam chuckled like it was funny. She didn't laugh. She just said, "I don't want to destroy him. I just want what I'm owed." Owed. I gave her everything. I built our savings, paid off her student loans, covered her mother's hospital bills, took a second job when she wanted to start her online candle shop that lasted 4 months and tanked. What exactly did she think she was owed? That's when the grief started turning into something else. Not rage, not revenge, strategy. Because now it wasn't just about catching her. It was about protecting everything I had left. And that meant taking a risk I never imagined I'd even consider. The next morning, while she showered, I drove to a lawyer's office. Not to ask about divorce, not yet. I had a different question. Can I protect my assets without her knowing? The answer changed everything. The lawyer leaned back in his chair like this wasn't the first time a husband came in with shaky hands and betrayal in his voice. He didn't seem surprised by anything I said. Not the hidden mic, not the bank transfers, not the way my wife was preparing to paint me as emotionally unavailable just to bleed me dry. He only nodded slowly and said, "You're not crazy. You're just a step behind someone who's already made their move." I asked him what I could do, how much I could protect, how quiet it could stay. He laid it out in plain language. I needed to separate our finances immediately. I needed to open a new account under my name only, remove access to our joint funds, and document everything I discovered. And I needed to act fast, before she made the first legal move. If she filed first, the damage could already be done. By noon that day, I'd opened a new account. By 2 p.m., I had quietly transferred my paychecks to it. I left just enough in the joint account to keep her from noticing, for now. Back home, she was in the living room watching a rom-com, feet up like nothing was happening, like she wasn't orchestrating the slow collapse of everything we built. She asked if I wanted to order Thai food. I said sure. She snuggled up to me during the movie. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just sat there, wondering how many moments like this had already been fake. Then something strange happened. Her phone buzzed, and this time she didn't flinch. She didn't hide the screen or turn it over like she used to. Instead, she glanced down, smiled, and left it face up on the coffee table. Like she was testing me. I looked. The name on the message wasn't Liam. It was just a string of emojis. A fire symbol, a heart, and a glass of wine. I saw the preview. "You sure he's not catching on?" Smirking face, "I don't want this blowing up before the trip." The trip? Mallory told me she was going to her cousin's lake house next weekend, a girls-only reset before the holidays. I never questioned it. But now, everything had a shadow behind it. A weight I hadn't noticed before. So I made a decision. A quiet, dangerous decision. I wouldn't just follow the money. I'd follow her. I called in 2 vacation days. She didn't know. I told her I had a work project that would keep me overnight at the office. She didn't even question it. She was too busy planning her little getaway. I tracked the Airbnb confirmation from her email while she slept. Not a lake house. A beach condo 3 hours south. 2 guests listed. 1 room. She didn't know I knew. She didn't know I was already packing a bag. She didn't know I'd be staying close, quiet, out of sight. Watching, recording, waiting. And when that weekend came, and I watched her step out of the car in a sundress I'd never seen before, laughing with Liam like he already owned her, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity. This wasn't just cheating anymore. This was premeditated, strategic. And I was done being the weak, clueless husband in her story. Because now, I was writing the ending. The condo was nicer than I expected. White exterior, 2nd floor balcony, a view of the water so perfect it looked like a postcard. I parked 2 streets down and watched from a spot just high enough to see through the railing. She didn't know I was there. That was the point. Mallory stepped out onto the balcony wearing sunglasses and holding a mimosa. Liam was already shirtless, stretching like he belonged there. Like he'd always belonged there. She kissed him like it wasn't a betrayal. Like it was routine. Casual. I recorded it. I didn't even hesitate. They didn't stay in much. Over the next 2 days, I followed them, from brunch to the boutique shops she used to drag me into. They laughed. She tried on clothes while Liam sat outside texting someone else. At one point, I saw her kiss him in the middle of a crosswalk. People stared. She didn't care. She wasn't hiding. And that told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't new. It wasn't fresh or accidental. This was deep, rehearsed. They had history. I kept my distance, taking photos, keeping timestamps, saving every detail. She thought she had the perfect weekend away. Thought I was back home in front of a monitor, clueless, predictable. But the moment they checked out Sunday morning, I was already 2 steps ahead. I called my lawyer from the car and told him everything. Every file, every image, every transaction. I gave him the burner phone, the audio recordings, even a timeline of her lies. He didn't speak for a minute. Then he said, "You're going to want to move fast. We file Monday." That night, she came home tired. Said the girls' trip had been relaxing but exhausting. She dropped her bag by the door like nothing had happened and asked if I could order takeout. I said yes. I even got her favorite sushi, just to make it easier for her to relax. I watched her eat. I watched her scroll through her phone, texting him right in front of me without the slightest hesitation. And then I told her, calmly, "Hey, Mallory, just so you know, I saw you with him. At the beach. The whole weekend. I know everything." She didn't answer right away. Her chopsticks froze midair. She stared at me like I had just spoken in another language. I repeated it, slower this time. "I know about Liam. I know you weren't with Natalie. I've known since the night of the party. I saw you in the pool. I've been collecting everything since then." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked pale. For the first time in weeks, she didn't have a clever lie ready. I stood up. "I already filed. You'll be served in the next 48 hours. Don't bother deleting anything. I have it all backed up." She finally spoke. Just one word. "Wait." But I didn't. I grabbed my bag from the hallway, walked out the door, and left her sitting there surrounded by half-eaten sushi and a mess she couldn't talk her way out of. The truth was, I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. I felt like a man who had finally stopped drowning, only to realize how far out he was from the shore. I thought walking out would bring peace, closure, that I'd feel some kind of justice after finally exposing everything she'd done behind my back. But the truth is, when the door closed behind me, I didn't feel free. I felt hollow, like I'd spent months preparing for a war I never wanted to win. I checked into a cheap extended stay hotel and sat on the edge of the bed staring at a television that I never turned on. My phone buzzed nonstop. Mallory called 6 times in a row, then started texting, first with fake confusion, then with denial, and finally with panic. She told me I was overreacting. She said it was a mistake and not what it looked like. She tried every variation of the same lie I'd already caught her in. I didn't respond. I just watched the notifications roll in, one after another. Her messages turned cold by midnight. She said if I wanted to play games, she'd play harder. That she could still file first, and judges don't like bitter husbands who spy. That's when it hit me. She still thought she had control. Even after I confronted her, even after I walked out, she believed I could be manipulated back into place. Like I'd cave the second she pushed hard enough. But it was already too late for that. The next morning, she showed up at my office. Security called to ask if they should let her up. I told them no. She waited in the parking lot for an hour. I watched her from the 3rd floor window, pacing, looking angry, desperate. At one point, she slammed her hands on the hood of her car. She was unraveling. Later that night, I got a call from her sister, someone who used to tell me I was too soft for Mallory. She said, "She's freaking out. She didn't think you'd actually go through with it." I told her sister, "That's the problem." She thought I wouldn't do anything at all. But I had. I did. The lawyer filed. The evidence was logged. The financial accounts were secured, and she would be served within 24 hours. But then something happened that I didn't see coming. Something she never predicted either. Liam's wife contacted me. I didn't even know he was married. She found my number through a mutual friend. Apparently Mallory had slipped up and posted a private story not so private enough. His wife, Hannah, had seen the beach photos. She had questions. I met Hannah at a diner just off the highway. She was calm, too calm, like someone who'd already been broken and had nothing left to lose. She slid a flash drive across the table. Everything I have. Photos, texts, even a voice memo he accidentally sent me once. Use it however you need. We sat in silence for a long time after that. Two strangers joined by the same betrayal, piecing together the lives our spouses had smashed without hesitation. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But something inside me settled. Because now, Mallory wasn't just facing me. She was facing someone who had every reason to burn it all down, and the receipts to do it. I didn't know what peace would look like after everything fell apart. I used to imagine it would come like a storm, loud, vengeful, dramatic. But when it came, it was quiet, soft. It looked like sunlight through a kitchen window in a place that wasn't ours. It sounded like silence, not the awkward, heavy kind I lived in with Mallory, but the kind that feels earned. Safe. The day she was served, I didn't gloat. I didn't text her. I didn't post anything or call anyone. I just turned off my phone and drove to the coast. Alone. I stood barefoot on the sand, watched the waves roll in, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to go wrong. Mallory tried to fight it. Her lawyer sent some ridiculous demands, spousal support, a share of my future retirement, even half the equity from the house. But the evidence, I had shut all of it down. The photos, the recordings, the timeline. The judge didn't even blink. The moment she realized she wasn't going to walk away with anything she schemed for, she folded. I didn't ruin her. I didn't want to. That was never the point. I just wanted to be free, to stop pretending, to finally live without feeling like I was walking on glass every time she smiled at her phone. Hannah, Liam's wife, and I kept in touch for a while. We shared resources, helped each other through the paperwork. At some point, we just started talking like regular people. Not because we were trauma bonding, but because it was easy, real. There was no performance between us. Just honesty, something both of us hadn't had in years. I'm not saying I found love again. Not yet. But I did find something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Clarity. Control. I moved into a smaller apartment, closer to work. I started cooking again. I even adopted a dog. A clumsy, over-affectionate rescue mutt named Rusty who thinks every sock is a treasure. I started sleeping through the night without waking up in panic. That alone felt like a miracle. Mallory sent me one final message last week. I made a mistake. I didn't reply. Because no, she didn't make a mistake. She made choices. Over and over again. And now, I'm finally making mine. So to anyone out there stuck in the shadows, afraid of what you'll lose if you face the truth, sometimes what you think you're holding on to is what's actually holding you back. Let go. Walk out. Pick yourself. Because healing isn't loud. It's quiet. And it's yours. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you've ever gone through something similar, drop a comment below. You're not alone.